Well, we have a busy night of weather across upstate New York and into Vermont. Lots of severe thunderstorms. Stop laughing. Lots of severe thunderstorms, tornado warnings, and flash flood warnings are in play, all in the middle of this ridiculous heat. But I'm going to brag about the fact that I had probably the most gorgeous July day that I've had here since I've been here. And in the West, the excessive heat continues. So we'll talk about all of that. And maybe we'll talk about what Joe Rayo's laughing about tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which is brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. The revolutionary Tempest weather system is yours. If you get it, you join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the descriptor to this podcast. Use the coupon code.
Summer 2024.
And if you do, you will get
10% off.
Now, we better not tell them tonight about what I just showed you. So
please don't.
We're a family show.
Don't do this to me. Literally, just as we're coming on the air.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It was for those of you who could find it. It was from it's an Elon Musk tweet. They're fooling around with his new AI thing, and some of the stuff that's come out of it's been pretty hilarious. But I'll leave it at that. And it's somewhat weather related. Okay, so let's get to it because it's going to be a short show tonight. Joe has things to do, and I have things to do as well. So, Beryl, remnants, whatever you want to call it, Joe, this has been amazing. The tornado warning numbers just keep, going up because these count. I think it's up to like 187, which is shy of Ivan, which I think it was somewhere like 205 or something. This has been quite a storm indeed when they write all the history about it. And I have seen dozens of severe thunderstorm warnings and a number of tornado warnings up across much of upstate New York, and it's still going on this evening.
Well, I got to tell you that we kind of dodged a bullet here in the immediate New York area because all of the activity from Beryl fired up to the north. Of course, a few days ago, the GFS was saying, no, New York is right in the bullseye for this. We knew that wasn't really going to be the case because the path of the storm was to our north, and usually this kind of activity occurs along and just to the north of the storm track. So, but it certainly has been a very, very impressive situation in regard to the number of severe weather outbreaks, tornadoes that this thing has set off over the last, especially ever since making landfall, last few days.
Oh yeah, and by the way, the backside of this has funneled down some dry air through the Appalachians that got to me today. I did not even get to 80 today, even though I was kind of cloudyish this morning, but it went partly sunny. There's been a gusty northwest wind, all afternoon long. The dew points dropped down to near 60 or low 60s, and the temperatures not out of the 70s. I think I got to 77 or 78. I mean, it was just an absolutely wonderfully comfortable day. And by the way, as far as the weather up your way is concerned, it's insane to me how you could sit there with temperatures in the mid 90s, dew points in the mid 70s in a lot of places, and you can't even buy a thunderstorm at the moment. If you look at what's up where it is all on the radar, as you pointed out, Joe, it's all to the north. Okay, the bulk of the Beryl stuff is to the north. There is some trailing thunderstorm activity in eastern Pennsylvania and down through central PA and further south into northernmost Virginia. None of that's going to make it to you.
Right. Well, on my Facebook forecast, I had said that there was a slight, let's underscore that word, slight risk of a passing shower or a localized thunderstorm, but it would be primarily well north and west of Interstate 84. And it looks like that's going to be the case. There's the trailing line of showers and storms you mentioned, Joe, over northeastern Pennsylvania right now. And if it continues, maybe later this evening, it'll brush portions of the Hudson Valley up toward, let's say, Orange County, Ulster County, Sullivan County. But for places like in Westchester and Rockland and right here in Putnam and Point South, forget about it. It's not going to happen. And you're right. I spent my second day today taking care of the lawn. Yesterday I was on the tractor. Today I use a hand lawnmower to do edging. And I got to tell you, when I was finished at around 1 o'clock this afternoon, my entire shirt was soaked. And I checked the readings on our weather station, 89 degrees, dew point 79, and if you do the calculation, that equated to a heat index of 105 degrees.
Oh,
Ouch.
oh. And I spent the morning, I walked 6 miles in the park because it was just utterly spectacular. And then I came home and I made 40 meatballs. By the way, um, uh, you've got the radars up on the screen now, so you can take over with the radars. Uh, at the moment, we have 18 severe thunderstorm warnings, three special marine warnings, and one tornado warning. And they break down one in Arizona, one in Iowa, one in Maryland, three in Maryland, three in Nebraska, one in New Mexico, three in New York, six in Pennsylvania, one in Virginia, one in Vermont, one in Wisconsin, two in West Virginia, and that doesn't count the flash flood warnings that are up now for parts of northern Vermont and back over into northeastern New York. It's all yours.
Oh, wow. Well, on the screen, you can see this is from the friends over at Albany. And you can also see that there are very dynamic showers and storms occurring in the general vicinity of, for example, Syracuse and Ithaca, and even north and west of Albany. Albany itself is not getting anything, but you can see that if you travel up on 87 on the Adirondack Northway, you go north of Glens Falls, up toward where I saw the eclipse in Plattsburgh. They're probably getting hammered right now with some extreme weather, possibly touching off some straight line winds or microbursts or even a tornado or two. And the north half of Vermont apparently is in the zone or line north of Rutland of showers and significant thunderstorm activity. Let's go further to the north. Let's go on up to, let's check Colchester, Vermont. And in Colchester, we can see, again, a continuation of all of that activity. It looks like it's in strands or bands, if you will. Again, northern Vermont, parts of northern Vermont getting hit rather hard with showery, thundery weather, also up in the Adirondacks. And going across the border on up toward Montreal, they are getting a fairly decent amount of showery, thundery, possibly torrential rainfall. Again, all of this due to the remnants of what was once Beryl. I'm going to go over, let's say, check out I know there's probably not going to be much on it because most of it is to the north, the Boston radar. And you can see Boston itself not seeing much of anything, as is the case for much of southern and central New England. It's all taking place, again, across northern sections of New England. In fact, if we check up here, let's go to Portland or Gray, Maine, and you can see that, again, the north half of Maine is getting showery and thundery weather. Same holds true for northern New Hampshire, northern sections of Vermont, and again, quite a bit of activity across central and northern sections of Maine. Now, I want to just go off to the west for a moment. Let's go to Buffalo, and you can see that in and around Buffalo, they have some spotty or scattered activity, but a lot of the activity really is across the border in Canada and Ontario. Here is Toronto, and just north and west of Toronto, you can see a broad area of moderate to even heavy shower and even perhaps embedded thunderstorm activity. Joe, you mentioned Maryland, so why don't we go down to Washington D.C.
Yeah, there's a nice looking squall line that extends
Yeah,
from south central Pennsylvania down into western Maryland. Then you got these clusters that are over Washington, D.C. There's a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings there.
It's interesting that this is a 3 hour loop. And in the opening hours of the loop, the main area of activity is down here from about Washington and points south into northern Virginia. And then all of a sudden, flaring up across western and central Maryland and on into south central Pennsylvania is another line of intense, albeit rather localized, shower and thunderstorm activity as well. And you can almost, by the end of the loop, link the two lines together from central Pennsylvania and then down into central Maryland and into north central Virginia. So down there, they're getting their fair share of shower and thunderstorm activity as well.
All right. Uh, we'll go to the wide radar shot, which I have, and just look at a few other places where there's stuff going on. And that's down in Florida, where we've got some showers and storms in the northern part of the state and then out into the Atlantic, and also in the southern part of the state. And it looks like a little special marine warning just popped up over there. And we've also have some showers and storms back in northern Illinois, in southern Iowa, northern Missouri, and even parts of southern Minnesota. Also over the state of Michigan, we've got some showers and thunderstorms going on there. That's on the backside of the low that is Beryl and the upper trough that goes with it. And we've got a scattering of and clusters of showers and storms in the Rockies from southern Wyoming down through central Colorado into central New Mexico, and a few scattered storms in southern Arizona. And it's also a little busy in South Texas tonight, where we've got some downpours and thunderstorms going on almost back to San Antonio. So it's fairly busy in that part of the world. The west is quiet, the northern plains are quiet, and as we look at the satellite, you can see the pretty obvious rotation. Anytime you've got rotation this time of year, this far for where it is, you can bet that there's severe weather. And actually, you can also see the short wave that's behind it. There's this curl that's back through southern Minnesota into Iowa and Missouri, and that is creating some showers and thunderstorms. And the other thing I just want to point out on the loop is if you look out in the Atlantic, this is a cold upper low that is well to the east of the Bahamas, but it's moving westward. And you also have the clouds and showers that are off the Florida coast. And this is something actually the Hurricane Center mentioned on their outlook. They only have a 10% chance of developing, they're saying is marginally conducive. A lot of this moisture is what's going to get drawn up the coast on the backside of the Bermuda High come Friday. And we'll take a look at that momentarily. So we've got a tornado watch that is up. There's actually two tornado watches, a second tornado watch for northern New Hampshire and into western Maine, or at least touching the border of western Maine. The tornado watch extends down through central PA, and then it's a severe thunderstorm watch that is south of there, and those are the storms that Joe showed you on the around the Washington D.C. area, and then the other stuff that's coming down from south central PA into west central Maryland. So that's all been inside this enhanced risk, slight and enhanced risk from northwestern New England across New York State and then southward through central Pennsylvania and into Virginia. The tornado risk is 5 to 10% across northern Pennsylvania and upstate New York, and you got that 10% area there in central New York, extending up into northeastern New York. And of course, that's been playing out all day with tornado warnings that we've seen that have gone up. Now, the rainfall over the next 7 days, and WPC has got, and this is all from that trough that's off the Florida coast and the upper low that's to the east of that's moving westward. So a lot of that moisture is going to get drawn up the eastern seaboard. So they've got an inch and a half, little tongue of an inch and a half coming up through New Jersey into the Hudson Valley and Connecticut and western Long Island, and an inch or into an inch and a half on either side of that. And then the amounts get even higher as you get down into Maryland, eastern Maryland, Delaware, much of eastern Virginia, southeastern Virginia and coastal North Carolina into South Carolina in an area of 3 inches or more of rain. So this is going to be somewhat substantial there. We also have some heavy rains indicated for western and southern Florida, not quite as much along the immediate east coast of Florida, but um, up to several inches in South Florida. And then you've got this patch of a half inch to an inch or so from eastern Iowa across northern Illinois, northern Indiana, southern Michigan, northern Ohio, and western PA. Much of the rest of the country really not seeing a whole lot of rainfall in the next 7 days. And as far as watches as warnings are concerned, we still have these heat advisories and the excessive heat warnings from today. We'll see what they do with this tomorrow. We also have the continuation of the excessive heat and heat advisories. There's a little bit less today in the West, but I'm grasping at straws here, folks. It's still quite a bit of coverage here away from the coast where you've got excessive heat warnings and heat advisories up in that area. So let's take a look at where we're going with this.
Before you go, Joe, I have on
Yeah,
my screen sharing right now what I think is a very, very impressive. Now, you often show the GOES satellite imagery, but I'm looking at a GOES satellite imagery that also shows of the Northeast the areas of severe weather, thunderstorm activity. Look at
lightning
that.
strikes.
It's a lightning strike. I mean, look at it. Look at that. It's like a string, if you will, from western sections of Maine across northern New Hampshire and Vermont, then up across the Adirondack region of New York State, down south and to the west into the central regions, the leather stocking region of central New York, Horseheads, New York, for example, Ithaca, New York, that area, and then down into the central region of Pennsylvania. And then there's that squall line that suddenly flares up over south central Pennsylvania and continuing down into Maryland and northern sections of Virginia. I mean, admittedly, it's a broken line or broken area. It's not completely solid, but still very, very impressive and showing you all of that activity that's taking place right now. And meanwhile, Long Island, much of northern New Jersey, the Hudson Valley of New York, completely unscathed by any of this, although clouds probably will be increasing later tonight. And there's a chance again, if you're well to the north and west of, let's say, 84, in parts of Orange County or Ulster or Sullivan County, that maybe one of those showery or thundery conditions will be passing over your end, your neck of the woods. But again, rather impressive. And again, all of these showers and storms occurring as a result of the remnant of what was once again a Category 5 hurricane. And that, of course, was Beryl.
I just want to quickly look here. These were the high temperatures today. I mean, the place to be was either on Long Island or coastal. It was only mid to upper 80s across Connecticut and upper 70s and lower 80s in southeastern New England. Long Island temperatures were in the low to mid 80s, but New Jersey burning up 96 in New Middlesex County. Caldwell got to 95, 95 for McGuire Air Force Base, a high there. Newark 93. LaGuardia got to 90. I don't have Central Park's high here. Terrytown at 90, White Plains topped out at 88, Montgomery topped out at 92, uh, Newburgh, not too far away, only got to 88, and Poughkeepsie got to 90. In Southeast PA, it was middle and even a few upper 90s, 97 for Harrisburg for a high, 96 at the Muir Army Airfield in Indiantown, Pennsylvania, which is to the northeast of Harrisburg. Reading got to 95, Philadelphia 93, and further south. The 102 is from, this was actually from Carroll County Regional, Jackby Carroll County Regional Airport, Poage Field, 102. This seems to be like one of those hot spots. I don't know how reliable it is. In West Virginia, the Old Town Salt Dome, Joe, in northeastern West Virginia, it got to 101. At the Greater Cumberland Regional Airport, it got to 101. And at the Fountain Heiser high flows. That's what it says. Got to 100. But a lot of middle 90s. Washington, D.C., Baltimore got to 95. College Park Airport got to 95. Gaithersburg, 94. 95 in Leesburg, 94 at Dulles. So, it was a hot day. And again, they're getting some storms around the Washington, D.C. area, but for everybody else, you would think this daytime heating and the high dew points would have been enough to set off some thunderstorms, but it was a no-go. So here's what the upper air looks like. You've got this shortwave trough. Let me just make this a little smaller so you can follow the date on the model. But here's the edge of the Bermuda High. Okay, here's your upper low. There's a trough that's kind of sitting here off the Florida coast, and then you've got this southwest flow with the short waves that are running from southeastern Canada back across the Great Lakes and into a cutoff low in Iowa. So there's an alleyway here for this moisture to come up the eastern seaboard, and that is how the models play it. That upper high actually builds it back westward into New Jersey and Long Island come Thursday night into Friday. And then it's almost a straight southerly flow, Joe, during the day Friday. So whatever's down there is going to wind up coming straight up. You've got this shortwave in the Great Lakes. You've got a southerly flow along the eastern seaboard around that high. So, you know, moisture that's down here, that is coming straight up the eastern seaboard. And it looks like it's not going to be one of these things where you have to wait for the, late afternoon and evening. I mean, this is going to be probably an area of rain that comes up. And then gradually, as we go through the weekend, the flow aloft turns more westerly. And then there's a stronger trough that moves into southeastern Canada and New England come Tuesday, the middle of next week. And maybe that will bring some dew point relief for you. But uh, I'm
I
not,
think
I
that's
don't,
going to be the case. I think we're going to see I'm not saying that we're going to see a significant change temperature-wise. Well, if we do, there will be a drop of some degrees. I mean, I don't expect temps in the 90s, but the dew point temperatures should take a noticeable dive once a front passes on by here, probably either very late Wednesday night of next week or early Thursday. We're talking about the 17th and 18th of July. And hopefully that drier, lower humidity air will stay with us through the balance of next week and on into the following weekend. Again, not a nice cool air mass, but at least enough to lower the blankety blank dew points, which have been so very, very high. Today, as I said, at my house at 1 o'clock today, my dew point, according to my weather station, 79. 79 degrees for dew point. At the same time, it was like 88, 89 degrees. It was atrocious, and it's going to just continue to be that way day in and day out until we get that big drop in the dew points, or significant drop in the dew points, and that will be again later next week. Vincent Croce asking a question, Joe, which I just happen to have knowledge of the answer here. What is the record for most 90-degree days in New York City? Vincent, there is a tie between 2 days, 2 years, I should say, 1991, and then just 2 years later, 1993. In those 2 years, Central Park amassed 39 90-degree days. That is the all-time record for most 90-degree days in a year or for a summer. 39 at Central Park, 1991, and again 1993. The normal number of days at or above 90 is 17. And no, I
well,
have no idea how many 90-degree days we've had at Central Park so far this season.
yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure on that either. By the way, if you want to know how I got the dry air down here, if you just kind of follow the isobars around the low, which was a 999 low up in upstate New York. I mean, that's for this time of year, that's pretty impressive. But basically got that northerly flow. There's, a bit of a front that or a trough of some kind that moved on through. We can call it a cold front. And the dry air came down the Appalachians and right down into southern Georgia. Just want to see what just going to bring the dew point map up here for just a moment. 2 meter dew point. Yeah, I mean, there's a 50. This is by at this evening, Joe. Just to the north of me, there's a 59 print on the map, and there's dew points in the mid and upper 50s, right down the southern Appalachians to about me, and even down near Atlanta, the dew points at like 62, 63. You've got low 60 dew points getting almost all the way down to South Georgia. I mean, this was a fairly decent push of dry air. And in fact, they're forecasting a low here tomorrow morning of 59 and dew points that dropped over that wind up dropping overnight even more. They get down into the low and mid 50s. So I'm happy. They come all the way to if you guys want dry air, just come down to North Georgia. You can get all the dry air you want. So here's what the go ahead.
Go,
I'm sorry.
go.
No,
No,
I was just going to say, you watch the GFS, you see the weakening area of the storms in Pennsylvania just kind of die out. The stuff, the low tomorrow afternoon, which right now the low is kind of, redeveloping up in north central New York, and it's still up in northern New England tomorrow afternoon. Uh, and then you start to see this, this system off the Florida coast with the upper low, and you get this area of rain that develops over coastal North and South Carolina, and then gradually starts to push northward during the day, Friday into Friday night, comes up into Saturday morning, then goes out. Uh, we're going to just keep it very warm to hot and humid going into next week. And in fact, as we said yesterday, and it looks the same again today, there's four westerly isobars from Virginia to southern New York on Monday. So you're going to see temperatures up into the 90s, and Tuesday could be hot. There's some kind of trough that comes through Monday night with some showers and storms. Maybe that keeps the temperatures down a bit on Tuesday. That's always possible. Then there's some more storms that pop up late in the day Tuesday as the stronger front finally comes through, and then you got that nice little high that moves across the Great Lakes and into the Northeast. And I think it was Paul Reed asking about the dew points next week. Just here's what the GFS has got. The GFS has got dew points in the 50s, which I think if you could get dew points, actually even got his dew points down in the 40s come Wednesday night and Thursday. Dew points in the 40s, especially in upstate New York and into New England. So, keep your fingers crossed. Uh,
that'll feel much, much, much better. Again, not so much in terms of temperature, but the dew points are going to be, it's going to make it feel so much better than, especially what we've been dealing with and what we were dealt today. Maggie P is asking about the drought monitor, and she says it hasn't been updated since July 2nd. I wonder why. Well, first of all, the data always is put together on Tuesday. Last Tuesday was July the 2nd. And then they released the new map with the new information on Thursday, which would have been July the 4th, but July the 4th was a national holiday. So they released it actually on July the 3rd. In fact, it says so in the drought monitor map in the upper right hand corner. Now, yesterday they compiled a whole bunch of new data, and if all goes well, Maggie, if you check the Climate Prediction Center drought monitor tomorrow, you will see that it will be updated for tomorrow, being a Thursday. That's the day when the new map is usually posted. That will be based on data that was collected on this Tuesday, which was July the 9th, yesterday. So there you go.
all right. Okay, the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast are brought to you by Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the description to this podcast. The coupon code is,
Summer 2024,
and if you use it, you will get
10% off.
All right. Sorry to cut it a little short tonight, folks. So we will be back Sunday. Okay, so no show tomorrow. We'll be back Sunday at 7:35 p.m. Eastern time. And David Schwartz just putting up that a tornado warning, severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado located near New Berlin, which I've been to, or 7 miles east of Norwich, moving northeast at 30 miles per hour, and that's in Otsego, New York. Chenango/Otsego, New York. So still pretty busy upstate and into Vermont with severe weather and flash flood warnings and everything else. All right, folks, we'll see you tomorrow. I'm sorry, we'll see you Sunday. Night, night.
Sunday night.